like circled it and she was like, I thought you got a Labubu. And I was like, you thought I got a Labubu and then was balancing it on my tits? Like, okay, weirdo. I feel good about this. Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of I Feel Good About This podcast. I am so excited to have you back or here for the first time. Maybe this is you're taking a chance on episode 4, starting here, and I love that for you. And I just want to take a moment and say I'm so grateful for all the support and love that I've received from family and friends. People are sharing it, and I encourage you to continue to do so. It's been effective, and I'm super happy with all the wonderful feedback we've gotten. And I do want to say, I know that I appear to be doing this on my own because it's just me, but the truth is I have 2 incredibly brilliant, wonderful, fantastic, amazing friends who are producing this podcast with me. That is James and Becca. You guys are incredible. I'm actually shooting alone for the first time in I Feel Good About This history, and there's no way on God's green earth I would feel comfortable doing this and be able to do this myself without all of the work that they have put in and helped make this podcast what it is and continue to grow and improve with me. So thank you guys. I love you. And I hope you're happy with this episode because this is a full solo pod. There are not going to be any asides with my wonderful producer James, but hopefully we'll get to, all of our thoughts and feelings. So let's do it. Let's get to episode 4. So this is our first segment. It's I Feel Good About This week. And the first thing that I feel good about this week that I want to talk about is something that I do that I think other people do, but I have gotten some flack for it. And so I want to talk about why I do feel good about this. And it is Googling everyone's height. It doesn't matter to me how tall or how short you are. I just want to know because I feel like we spend so much time watching, TV and movies, and, these actors feel larger than life. And sometimes their celebrity is so huge, you can't sort of move past them being a normal person. And so I feel like the great equalizer, first of all, I am one of those people, I can't watch something without Googling all the information I need to know about it. So I'm a little annoying because I'm a fact collector. And so as soon as I recognize somebody or I see something, I'm phones up, I'm pulling up the TV show, I'm going to that particular actor, where I know them from. Sometimes I try to wait and see if it will come to me, but I'm often impatient and I just go for it and start Googling. One of the things that I do feel like justified in is Googling people's heights. Sometimes I am shocked. You can kind of tell people are tall, but I had no idea The Rock was 6'5". That is a big, tall person. And you get it because he's a big presence and whatever. But I think a lot of times, people who are acting in movies with The Rock, sometimes they'll stand on a box so they'll seem like they're at similar heights or whatever, just trick us. And I don't like that trickery. I want to know what I'm dealing with. I want to know when I stand next to this actor, for instance, I was just watching this documentary on Eminem, and it's a documentary called Stan, and it's about Stan culture and how it can become very dangerous, and how it was he coined the word Stan from a song Stan, and now we kind of use it as I'm a rabid fan of whoever, I'm a BTS stan, and that doesn't necessarily have negative connotations unless don't let me go on that road. But if you don't know the fandom name is BTS Army, then I would say oh, I'm a BTS stan, and people would know oh, I really like BTS. Colloquially, it's taken on a new term since it was coined, but originally I think it had the um the connotation of being like a rabid, kind of inappropriate fan who is really obsessed with every aspect of this person or this, musical act's life. And so, anyways, I've lost myself. We're talking about the documentary. It's an interesting documentary. I think it's on Paramount Plus if you want to watch it. But I was watching it and I was thinking, like, how tall is Eminem? I don't understand. And I always thought he was like probably like 6'2", 6'3". Like he seemed like a tall person to me. I Googled him. He is 5'8". That is one singular inch taller than me. And that helped me be like, you know what? Eminem is just a human being. These actors who are larger than life, these musicians who are larger than life, who live these intense lives so different from ones that we could ever imagine, are the same heights as us or shorter. I mean, like, I think Danny DeVito is 4'10", and that's like Danny DeVito's thing. Like, he's a small guy. Even like Tom Cruise, right? He's 5'7". Like, Tom Cruise and I are the same height. Like, we could share pants if I was a lot thinner. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I advocate for Googling people's height. It's like I'm demystifying it for myself. And so that's why I'm Googling heights. Again, I will say, like, this is not against short kings. I love short kings. I have so many wonderful short kings in my life. I feel like I'm one of those people who's like, why do you have a height requirement for a person you're dating? That's so weird. It has nothing to do with, like, a long-term relationship. I don't get it. But also, as a queer woman, I walk on a different plane than I think a lot of other people, because I think about those things differently to begin with. So I kind of understand that maybe it's not something that has always registered with me because of my sexuality. Am I getting too deep about height? I don't know. But I ultimately just want you guys to know that I feel great about Googling people's height. It's to know that I too could be a mythical, famous, wealthy celebrity. Because some celebrities are 5'7". So this is something that I feel good about this week, getting it off my chest. This is almost a contender for, I don't know how I feel about this, but I'm putting it during this segment because I feel good kind of unloading this. So I've been carrying this around for a while. I mean, really for a couple of years, actually, like talking to, anybody who will listen about it, but like wanting to just like unload in a strange way. And I feel like this podcast is very much just me using this platform to unload all my thoughts and feelings. So here we are. But I am connected to a very, very famous person who has gone through a scandal. And I want to talk about it. So I went to high school with Hilaria Baldwin, and I have some things to say about that. Like, please, I've been talking to my friends from high school who also went to school with her, and my friends who didn't go to school with her. And every time she comes up, came up again recently because she's now been selected to do Dancing with the Stars. And then like last year they had the reality show, which I did watch. Was it called the Baldwinitos, or did I just call it that? I think I may have just called it that. It may have just been called like the Baldwins. But girl, I wanted to root for her because, like, of course, you know, you want to see women thriving in fields that you yourself want to thrive in. For instance, you secured an incredible bag by marrying a very rich, very famous person. You yourself have become very rich and very famous. And babe, there's no one who would enjoy that lifestyle more than me. Like, look at me. I'm on the internet begging for attention. Of course, I want that for anybody who wants it. And I'm sure, I think she's had like business endeavors, adventures, reality shows. I think she's been on other shows, like I've seen her on the Today Show. And like, girl, I want to root for you. Like, we are alumni. I want to celebrate you. But the thing is, when you decided to Rachel Dolezal your life, I could no longer do it. Honey, like I I I don't wish ill on anybody, and I certainly don't wish ill on you. Honey, you did not have to pretend to be Spanish. We can all enjoy other cultures. We can spend so much time within those cultures and learn the language and eat the food and celebrate the literature and the media and the movies and all that from that culture and really drink it in. And to some extent, our stories are kind of similar. Started learning Spanish from a very young age. I studied abroad. I spent over a year of my, adult life in Spain studying and living and learning. I did, study abroad programs in Costa Rica. So, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but my Spanish is quite good as well. Um, and I love all things Spanish culture. I'm always interested in movies that come from Spain, Spanish music, Spanish food, baby, baby, come on, it's delicious. But I am I come from two white parents in the same world that you grew up in. And as I got to know you from high school, which again, I will say, I will preface this by saying we were not close friends. She was in some classes that I was in. She was such a nice person. Like, I never had an issue with her. She was very kind. And, again, we weren't close, but I always enjoyed talking to her and always thought of her fondly. And when this shit came out, and I will say, like, me and my classmates were all aware of this from, day one when it first came out that she was dating Alec Baldwin, and she was presented as this Spanish yoga teacher. We were all very confused. We were like, I mean, I remember she spent time in Spain, and she was a ballroom dancer and would do like ballroom dancing at assemblies at school. And I always was like, oh, that's cool. Like, it was fun to see people really having very, hobbies that I didn't know anything about. And she was very like involved in it. But like, not once did we ever think that she was Spanish. And I hate to say this, but like, the accent, babe, you didn't have that. And I really know, like, I know even spending a significant amount of time in a country where you speak that language 99% of the time, which I did, like, you don't get an accent when you speak English again. Like, that just doesn't happen. And so that was super confusing to all of us. We were all like, wow, this is crazy that like she's pretending to be Spanish. And I would tell my friends who didn't know her, I'd be like, yeah, it's kind of weird. Like, she was Hillary in high school and now she's Hilaria with a very thick Spanish accent, and I don't know why she's fucking doing it. And I don't know why, like, and it did take literally 10 years for her to be called out, because I will say none of us wanted to call her out. I didn't want, I didn't want a scandal for her, but I do think it's right that we kind of hold her more accountable. And I'll say this in particular because of a very specific scene in her reality show, which I watched, I think it was over the winter. And she's talking to this young girl, and I think they're like doing nails or something. She's a friend of one of her daughters. And this young girl, I believe she was splitting her time, I think, in between the United States, and it was either the UK or maybe it was in France. I can't remember exactly, but she was splitting her time between two countries. And Hilaria is trying to talk to her about the idea of code switching, which is a very real thing. And I don't like how she tried to usurp that term and make it seem like that's something she was experiencing based on her grift that she is a person from Spain, because code switching is a very real thing that people, mostly from, black and brown communities, have to do in order to be taken seriously in spaces that, historically excludes them. So in corporate America and academia, and having to perform that because of our inherent and horrible white supremacy in this country. um, they have to spend time really making sure that they're speaking in a way that is palatable to those people who run and own those spaces. That is not you, Hilaria, who took on a false identity and then is using it to talk about you having to switch on in between your accent and like your more American accent because people don't understand your culture. Like, that was where you lost me. I mean, you lost me in the beginning when you pretended to be Spanish, but that is where, you know, I feel like you need to be held more responsible. We both came from the same educational institution that I think taught us more about critical thinking and how, um, had a very progressive approach to education that would very much frown upon what you're doing. And so I don't want to be mean to you. That's the last thing I want to do. I think there are people who are really horrible and cruel to you and on the internet, which I don't condone. But like, girl, let's be real. Let's take responsibility and talk about why we did something like that. Or at least you don't even have to share that with the world, but at least like apologize, because it's fucking weird to steal a culture and claim it as your own when you don't actually come from that culture. Like, your whiteness is real and it buys you a lot of privilege that it might not if you were coming from another culture. And that's why this thing sucks. So, this is again a contender for I don't feel good about this, but I feel good about saying this because I've wanted to say it for a long time. The next thing I feel good about is sort of a weird thing because it's around a very tragic topic. But let me explain. I should change the name of this podcast to Let Me Explain, because I sound insane. So I've been watching this documentary that is on HBO Max, and it's called Ruby and Jody, A Cult of Sin and Influence. And it's about Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt. And if you don't know the story, this is a very oversimplification of it, just because this isn't a Ruby Franke podcast, but it's awful. It's this woman in Utah who is a Mormon, and she was very involved in the church, and she had this really big YouTube channel called 8 Passengers, and she used it a lot to talk about how she, she was a family vlogger, and she had all her kids there. I think she had 6 kids, and would talk about, parenting stuff and Mormon stuff and all that kind of family stuff. And she ended up getting wrapped up in there's no other way to say it. It's a fucking cult called Connections, led by Jody Hildebrandt, who is a monster and ended up Jody ended up sort of targeting Ruby and her family, like squeezing the husband out, and essentially abusing their younger children. And they both got arrested and are in jail, serving time for child abuse, which is, I'm sorry for talking about it, it's horrible, horrible, horrible. I was watching this documentary with my wife, Tara, and she turned to me and she goes, you know who should play Ruby Franke? And I was like, who? And she goes, Sarah Paulson. And when I tell you that, that revelation was so spot on to me that I literally stood up and I was like, how do we get Sarah Paulson on the phone? I have no personal connections, but I mean, we're both queer women, so I feel like someone can make that happen. Is another queer woman who's connected to either Holland Taylor, her partner, or Sarah Paulson, watching this? Because I would love to get on the horn and talk to Sarah about this role, because it'd be the role of a lifetime. She'd be incredible. She brings so much gravitas and weight to the role. And like, you need to be able to play evil. And honey, we've seen Sarah Paulson do it all, and we've seen her play evil. I mean, not to mention all of her, extraordinary work on American Horror Story. And I know people have a lot of feelings about Ryan Murphy. I don't really know what they are. I've never really looked into it much, but I think people don't love him for whatever reason, and that's okay. He doesn't necessarily have to be involved. It could be someone else. I don't know. But this story, in the right hands, would be so monumental. And by the right hands, I mean Sarah Paulson. And Jodie Hildebrandt, I don't know who she needs to be played by. That's an interesting question. If you were to cast a Sarah Paulson led, um, you know, I'm assuming limited series, because I feel like we need multiple episodes to sort of cover this story, not necessarily just a 2-hour movie. Who would you choose to play Jodie Hildebrandt? I would love to know. Put in the comments. My favorite pastime is casting projects that don't exist. So I would love to hear from you guys, because I haven't thought of a good Jodie Hildebrandt. Sarah Paulson fucking nailed it. So congratulations to my wife for, you know, she doesn't say a lot, but when she says it, it's really poignant. Like, Sarah Paulson should play Ruby Franke. I mean, it's almost like she's a philosopher, you know? That's what philosophers do, right? They make predictions about casting. I hope it happens. Let's get Sarah Paulson on the phone. Okay, so now we have reached the segment I don't feel good about this week. And the first one I'm going to be talking about is really specific, but it's something I've been thinking about for a while, and something I encountered in a television show I was watching this week. And it's really aggravating, because I want the things that well, that's not true. I was going to say I want the things that I watch to be so true to life. That's 100% true. Mostly I want fantasy. I want a getaway. I want to be as far from reality as possible, in terms of my reality. But there are little things, little logistical things in television shows and movies that I get stuck in my craw and I literally can't move on from. And this is one of those things where it's okay. Let me break it down for you. When someone is leaving and they hail a cab, and they open the cab door, but the person they're with is like, wait, I have something more to tell you. And they stand in front of the cab with the cab door open and have a 5 minute, really intense conversation about something. And I just think there is no cab driver in the world who would sit and wait for that. Presumably the meter hasn't started yet. And I'm talking old school cab, Ubers would never. They'd be like, we gotta go. This is a fixed rate. This isn't, no matter how long this takes, you've already agreed to a specific price. But old school cab drivers in these television shows or these movies just sit and watch and say nothing. I know that in reality, in this big city of Chicago, they'd either drive away or they'd honk at you or they'd be like, where the fuck, what the fuck are you doing? Why hail a cab when you're not ready? And like, it isn't just cabs, it's also like, people at restaurants who order food in a movie and it's like the server will come by and they'll be like, what can I get you? And then the people at the table will be having a conversation about what to order. And in reality, a good server would be like, you know what, I'm going to give you folks a few more minutes. I'll come back and check on you. But like sometimes in movies, the server will just sit there and listen to this dribble going back and forth. And then it might turn into another conversation about something relevant to the characters or whatever. Like, people aren't doing this. And I think we've created a world where there's too much patience for, background or featured extras in the world that doesn't really exist. And I aim to be more truthful in that way because I want us to really think about how we're portraying not only the characters in the movie, but the world that we're building around them. And honey, if you're in a big city like Chicago or New York or Los Angeles, those servers are not waiting for you. In fact, they're going to the back of the restaurant and staring at you with like anger in their eyes and talking to their coworker about how fucking annoying they are. And I wish they would just order, I need to turn over these tables. I'm not going to make any fucking money tonight. And I know that because I'm a former server. I worked in restaurants. I've worked in many restaurants. And honey, we don't like waiting. We like to turn it over because we are living in a tip culture. This may not be true in other countries, but in America, baby, we are making that money. And also, restaurants just want to turn over tables so they make money in general. And when you turn over a table, not only do you have more opportunities for tipping, but restaurants have more opportunities to sell food. You understand how it works. I feel like I'm explaining something that doesn't need to be explained to you, but sometimes I get kind of in my head and I can't stop explaining very basic things out loud. So, anyways, if you are in the movie industry or the television industry, first of all, I feel like we could do something together. I'm willing to pimp myself out for anything. Again, I'm trying to make money getting attention. And second of all, let's be real. Let's add in an extra line about how the server is going to come back or have the cab driver drive away and they'll say, oh crap, oh God, I got to hail another cab. Like, I just, sometimes these small things happen in movies and TV shows and I get stuck on it and I can't move on. Also, is that a mental illness? Can someone ask ChatGPT about that? Because I'm starting to feel like it might be. So the next thing I don't feel good about this week is not a new debate. It's a debate that's been happening for eons, for decades. People are talking about this. And I've always been on a particular side of this debate. Maybe you guys, sometimes people's feelings change as they get older. But the debate is, or it's not even a really debate, but I'm begging people to be kinder to people who don't wake up early. I'm sorry. Like, I've never had to, obviously for work you have to wake up and whatever, but I mean, like, in my personal life, oh, and I don't have a job. So what am I waking up for? I'm waking up to talk to myself in my own little room in a camera right here and validate myself. So yeah, I don't need to wake up early for that. You know what I mean? This kind of can happen at any time of the day. But I am sick of people making other people feel bad about the fact that they don't wake up at 5 a.m. I'm sorry, but like, I don't have the drive to do that. I'm tired. I'm sure you're tired too, babe. I also don't have children, so that makes my life sort of set up in a way where I don't have to rise at any particular time if I don't want to. And I'm not like saying that as like a valuable thing or not. That's just the way my life is set up. And like, if you wake up at 5 a.m. to go hit that yoga class, like, I love that for you. But like, if I want to go to a yoga class, I'm going at 2 in the afternoon. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just how it works for me. People are on different schedules and we have to respect that. And it's not like, one is better than the other. It's just our bodies are, you know, wired differently. I used to spend a lot of time wishing I could wake up early and feel refreshed and be that person, but I felt like that is, to me, some sort of like societal pressure. It's not something I actually want because I don't enjoy it. And let me tell you, I'm also not burning the midnight oil. I'm not staying up. I mean, sometimes I do, if there's a reason to stay up till 2 and 3 in the morning. But like, I'm not doing that. Truly, I like to go to bed early and I like to sleep late. I want to not be awake for as long as possible. And so, as soon as I get the opportunity and I don't have to sort of show up anywhere or be anywhere or do anything, I am gonna get in that bed. I'm not necessarily falling asleep as soon as I get into bed, but like, I'm sort of shut down for the day. And I think there's value in that. I'm a person who does not need to be around and functioning for 16 hours a day. So please let me go to bed early and wake up late because that's what I enjoy. And that's how I become the best version of myself to present to the world. And I don't think we have to, like, I just feel like we value like getting an early start on the day. Like, if you value that, I love that for you. Go on your bike ride on Lakeshore Drive at, 7 in the morning. Like, get that early sun in, be by the lake and drink all of that in. And that's, if you love to do that, let me love to not do that. Do you know what I mean? I don't have to be. And furthermore, when people give you shit for, quote, not enjoying like the nice weather in the way that they decide is how you should enjoy a nice day, like, look, I like to be outside. I love to be outside. It's a beautiful, I love to be in nature, totally happy with that. But if it's a nice day out and I decide that I want to spend this nice day sitting inside and catching up on a television show or lying in bed until 10 or 11 a.m., let me do that. What is your obsession with telling me I wasted a good day? I am enjoying what I'm doing. And just because the weather's nice does not mean I have to be outside when I don't want to be. I will go outside and enjoy the days I want to enjoy in the way that I want to enjoy them. Stop pushing your weird agenda on me that I have to feel weird about saying, like, yeah, it is a super nice day, but I don't want to do the thing that you want to do. Sorry. That got defensive, and I meant it. So, the final thing I do not feel good about this week is jury duty, and I have it next week. And this is why it's been on my mind a lot lately. I don't want to go to jury duty. First of all, it starts at 8:30 a.m., which, see previous comment about not being a morning person. I have to be at a courthouse dressed and ready to go and like make judgments at 8:30 a.m. I will say I'm always ready to make a judgment, but not the kind that happens in a court of law. And I'm not interested in serving in a jury. I very much believe wholeheartedly that the system is quite flawed, and I don't want to take part in it. So I don't think that I'm a good juror. I also feel like the system is unfairly weighted towards incarcerating people of color. So please let me just call up and say, hey, babe, it's not going to work for us. Like, I understand that, like, this is a civic duty that you feel is important for me, but I'm just not the right person to do this. I'm sure there are other people that you can find. I know it seems like a good time because I'm unemployed, but really between you and me, there's never going to be a good time for me to be doing this. Um, I am gonna be upset that I gotta be there early. I don't like waiting around a lot. That's a problem for me. I'll wait around for things that I feel are worth waiting around for, but sitting around in a courthouse in downtown Chicago, very early in the morning, and like, I hope you don't make me stay all day. And my BFF Alejandra, she got chosen for a jury a few years ago in Los Angeles. She doesn't live in LA anymore, but because we are very similar, and she we've had this conversation. She wanted to say the things that I said, about like the system being flawed and all that kind of stuff, but she said they question you in front of everybody, and it's very nerve-wracking. And so when they asked her, like, do you think there's a reason you would not be good on a jury, she just was like, nope, I'm good, and ended up being selected for a jury. Because when you also believe in something but are a people pleaser, you struggle with being able to say all the things you want to say publicly, because you also want to be a person who's good and does, and is accommodating. So someone asks you, hey, you think you'd be good at this, babe? And you're like, yeah, sure, why not? Because you're in front of a large group of people and it's intimidating. Like, I get that. And I'm worried then I'm going to run into the same situation. So please, like, I would love to just have a phone number where I could call and just say, and by the way, there is a phone number you can call and say, like, I can't do this. I'll do this again in 3 months, which I did 3 months ago. And now I can't believe they have the audacity to call me again. And now I'm just like, okay, I got to go. I got to get it over with. Because I don't think you can use that twice in a row. Maybe you can. I don't know. It's not something I'm looking forward to. And I don't feel good about it. And I hope they don't select me. The only thing that I am actually excited about is like, okay, well, at least I'll have, if I'm waiting around a lot, maybe I'll have a lot of uninterrupted time to finish this book I'm reading, which is a good book. I stopped reading the book that I didn't like from a few episodes ago. This one's good. So now we reach the segment, I don't know how I feel about this week. And something that I'm going to talk about that might relate to some of you, might be completely black hole to some of you, but it's something that I'm thinking about. And I've mentioned before, I am a BTS fan, part of the BTS army. Love them so much. If you are unaware, there is a promotion going on this month at McDonald's where you buy a Happy Meal and you get what is called a tinytan character blind box. Now, for those of you who need some catch up, a tinytan character is basically like a cutified version of a BTS member, and it's like a figure. Maybe I'll put up a picture of them right here. Take a look. Um, Now, to some of you who aren't invested in a fandom, this may seem confusing to you. Is this for children? Why do you want this? Well, I have to admit that if this were, 5 or 6 years ago, I would have been with you. I would have not understood what that meant. But now that I'm a BTS fan, I fully get it, and I'm like very immersed into the fandom. So this is going to be speaking sort of directly to those people, because like I don't know how I feel about this. So I've never been like a huge merch person. When I'm a fan of someone, like I don't usually wear stuff with their name or face plastered on me, but that sort of changed a little bit when I joined the BTS fandom because I love them so much, and it's just like so much like such a big part of that culture, but I've always been like a subtle merch person, which means I like to buy merch that like you can't immediately tell that it's merch. It's sort of like a if you know you know merch situation where if you're a fan of this person, there's a symbol or a character or something that you might be like, oh, I know what that is. That's so exciting. And like you can spot like fellow BTS army out in the wild and be like, oh shit, I know you. I see you. And I love that. That for me is like how I sort of participate in the merch as like a member of the fandom because again, I'm not a huge merch person, and that's sort of changed a little bit. Like, again, if you had asked me 5 or 6 years ago if I would have been like buying McDonald's Happy Meals to get these blind boxes so I can get all 7 members, I would have been like, what are you talking about? Like, what are you talking, like, why would I, what are you talking about? But that's not me anymore. Now I am going to McDonald's and buying Happy Meals to get all 7 members. And because they're blind boxes, you can't necessarily tell who's who. Although there is a little bit of a hack for those who want to know and don't know already. On the back, there's like a small number, and it's 1 through 7, and it's in the order of the fan chant. And like, I don't have time to describe to explain to you what the fan chant is if this isn't like if you look, if you want like a separate video on all the BTS related things, fine, I'll do it. But this is really just for the people who are interested in having this information. So it goes in the same order of the fan chant. So when I opened up my blind boxes, I knew before I opened them up that I was gonna have an RM and a Suga. I was very excited to get Suga because he's my bias. Again, for those of you not in the know, that means he's my favorite member. More or less. I mean, look, I love them all so dearly, but you get what I'm saying. So, anyways, my friend who is also a producer on this podcast went and got 3 Happy Meals. I think she got one for herself, one for her husband, one for her son, and she got 3 Sugas. So we're like on a mission to find all 7 members. Her son wants a Jungkook. Like, there's just like things we need to do. And I know if this isn't in your wheelhouse, this may sound so insane to you. And again, this would have sounded totally insane to me 5 or 6 years ago. But here I am, planning on hitting up different McDonald's. And also, like, I do not enjoy or want to eat a McDonald's Happy Meal all the time. Like, I probably haven't had a Happy Meal since I was a kid, and here I am buying up all these Happy Meals, especially when your girl is unemployed. But like, there are priorities in life, you know what I mean? So I don't know how I feel about this because I just feel like I'm spending so much money at McDonald's just to get these stupid things. And like, I am sort of like rising up outside of myself and looking at myself being like, you don't need this. But the fact is, it brings me an enormous amount of joy that I can't explain if you don't feel it. So, I'm just not sure how I'm feeling about having to spend so much money just to get all of these things when, I, again, am not a major merch person. And normally I like merch that you can wear that's like an accessory, like, or a t-shirt that like has subtle. I do have 99.9% of my merch is subtle, if you know you know merch, but I do have a sweatshirt that has Sugar's face all over it. That one, I am that one I'm proud to walk around in, but I do see myself like slowly but surely becoming more of a merch person. And I'm also really against having too much shit in my house. So I'm really not sure how I feel about this because also I don't want to waste food, so I have to eat all of these McDonald's Happy Meals and making my wife eat them so that I can get, double the blind boxes. So yeah, I'm feeling like this was a great collaboration for McDonald's, and I'm sure for BTS. Everyone's making money off the broken unemployed. Well, they run around town trying to get figures, tiny little figures of men I've never met in my life before and will never meet. So I don't know how I feel about it, but I'm powering through and doing it anyways. Um, so yeah, just trying to I think I'm just trying to accept myself now as like, girl, you're a merch person. This is you. This is you, and you can't go back. You can't walk it back, you know? So I don't know how I feel about that, but I'm still doing it. Okay, we are all done. That is episode 4 in the books of I Feel Good About This podcast. I just want to call attention to my microphone right here, which is been balancing beautifully between my breasts this whole time. But one of the funniest things is that my sister sent me a screenshot of the podcast last time she was watching it, and she like circled it, and she was like, "I thought you got a labubu," and I was like, "You thought I got a labubu and then was balancing it on my tits? Like, okay, weirdo." Anyways, not a labubu, a microphone strategically halfway down my chest because I want to make sure that when I scream very loudly and get excited, it doesn't terrify you all. So just wanted to call that out. Thank you again for listening. I hope you guys have a great week. If you want to follow us on social media, it's I Feel Good About This, and sometimes I Feel Good About This pod. So find us there. Find us on streaming platforms for podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. And of course, always like and subscribe and comment on our YouTube. Thank you guys. I'll see you next week. Love you. Bye. I feel good about this. My hair, oh my God, my hair is sticking. She is style, she is grace.